help you as a manifesting generator, bring you back to center and help you really begin to, first and foremost, understand that it is your nature to be that way and there's nothing wrong with it. And then create action that is really aligned from that place. But this is not about me working with manifesting generators. This is about you being a manifesting generator, what that actually means, and then how do you follow your strategy. So as a manifesting generator, let's do a quick share. So first thing I'm going to tell you is if you're a manifesting generator or someone you love is, and you're learning about them, I really encourage you to go back and at a minimum, listen to the class that we had on generators, because at your core as a Mani-Gen, you are a generator. So that's going to inform quite a bit of how you operate. Then if you're called to it, I do encourage you to also watch the class on manifestors, because there is this element, you have this sort of two ways of being coming into one, right? So you can listen to those two types and get an understanding of those, see how they resonate with you, and then begin to understand how you can live from that generatorness first, and then really embody the gifts that you have as a manifesting generator. Okay. So let me do a quick screen share here. I want to show you a quick body graph. Now, the other classes will talk about getting your chart. They'll talk about some of the other sort of introductory things. So I'm not going to go into that here for you today. We're skipping that step just as you would have it so that we can move on and get to the good stuff. So this is something I wanted to point out. As a manifesting generator, again, at your core, you are a generator. So that means that you have this sacral center, second square from the bottom, that sacral center is defined. What this also means is that you have a motor to the throat. So you're going to have your throat defined as well. So we talked about in some of the other classes how these four centers here on the bottom right are considered motors. And they're motors because they're energy giving. Now they don't emit energy, or you don't use energy or experience energy in the same way in each of these motors. The sacral is the only one that has sustainable energy, that offers sustainable energy. Okay. And these other three, they show up in a little bit of a different way, and they're more of an on off, or in the case of the emotional solar plexus, it's more of a rolling, that has to do with emotions. And that's a little different. So as a manifesting generator, at a minimum, you have this sacral center defined and your throat defined. I actually have seen charts where that's all you have and you're a manifesting generator. You may have one or two or three of these other motors. The key here is that one of the motors is connected to your throat, and you have the sacral center defined. So the sacral center defined doesn't have to be connected to your throat necessarily, but you do have a motor to the throat. Now, it's said from time to time in human design that the way you win the game of life is to get a motor to the throat. There is something incredibly powerful about having a motorized throat, because the throat center is the center of not just communication, but manifestation. When you motorize that throat, it allows you to sort of just create on command. It's this really powerful way of being. And if you have this and you do as a manifesting generator, you're not only accessing this empowered energy for yourself, you are also giving that to everyone around you. So it's a really incredible thing. I love manifesting generators because there's just this way of being that's so different. We're going to break it down. So again, this is not to say that one type is better than any other type. Every type has its sort of superpowers and kryptonite, if you will, right? There's challenges and there are blessings for being that type. So everyone works a little bit different. So this isn't to say this is the best type to be as a manifesting generator. That's not true, because you operate just a little bit differently. So we're not going to put these in any sort of hierarchy. It's simply that there is a tremendous amount of power to have a motorized throat. Now, when you have a motorized throat, you again are able to manifest, right? inspiration into reality, into this physical world with a greater, faster, not greater, but a faster capacity. And it's a more independent capacity. So you can do this on your own. You do not require being in relationship or being hooked up to other energetics in the same way that other types do. Okay. So let's talk about the sacral again, just to really bring this home, because this is such a big part of being any generator type. The sacral center is this inner GPS, is what it's often called. This inner GPS, this inner knowing that works in a yes, no capacity, right? It's a yes, no. And it is really amazing to have the sacral center defined, because you sort of operate in relationship to the world in this almost, I want to say simplistic, but it's not always so simple, because we can be conditioned out of listening to the sacral center, but it's it can become this very clear guidance system that you have. That's why they call it the inner GPS that you have, that kind of helps direct you through your life. So it's a clear yes or no. So when you have the sacral center defined, you have this access to this sustainable energy, okay? And you are able to really be in response to the universe or to the quantum field, whatever you want to call it. So as a manifesting generator, your strategy is to respond. However, because you have this manifestor energy with you, is to respond and then inform. Okay, so we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that, but it's not just responding, it's informing. Because you have motorized throat, because you have the sacral center defined, manifesting generators have this incredible capacity to just be lit up by so many different things. I always say variety is the spice of life for a Mani-Gen. You really do have a lot of different interests, and you're able to multitask. It's a real superpower for you to be able to multitask and have a lot of different things going on. And that really works well for you. And it's sort of like, because there is this element of the manifestorness in you as a Mani-Gen, and you have that generatorness, this ability to, you have the ability to initiate and execute, right? So it's like you have the ability to just kind of go out there, take charge. Of course, you want to be in response first, but you can go out there and take charge. And for that reason, you can also sort of steamroll people. You can kind of just kind of run past them, kind of do your own thing. There's a very strong sense of independence and self-sufficiency that comes with being a manifesting generator, so that you just kind of go off and do your own thing, whatever that thing might be in that moment, because it usually is going to change up. Okay. And it's going to vary. So when we're talking about strategy for a manifesting generator, it is to listen to your sacral response, right? So we're in response to that sacral, but this is going to be responding to something external. So for example, you hear a song on the radio, and it's a song about, California, and it's such a yes. And you're like, I'm going to take a trip to California, or I'm going to move to California. And then off you go, right? Like it's just, then you take action. So we're in response first as a generator type, but you need to inform people along the way so they don't feel left out, so they don't feel just overlooked or steamrolled, right? So the thing is, I want you all to hear this. Slow down for a moment. This is my mantra for manifesting generators. Slow down to speed up. Okay, come back to me here, because I'm sure you're multitasking while you're listening to this. If you have emotional authority as a manifesting generator, your strategy is a little different, okay? You want to wait to respond, then ride your emotional wave, and then inform, okay? I'm going to say that again. So wait to respond, ride your emotional wave, and then inform. Now, we haven't been talking in this series about authorities as much. So if you have no idea what that means, but you have emotional authority, you're looking at your chart and it says emotional manifesting generator, I really encourage you to, I've got classes, Google if you need to, check out and learn about what it means to have an emotional authority, because you're not really designed to make decisions in the moment. And so that step is really critical for you as a manifesting generator. Manifesting generators have a tendency to move very quickly. And you're probably giggling a little because every time I say this to a Manny Gen, if it's new to them, they laugh because yes, it's so true. The challenge with moving so quickly, because there's this really desire to be very efficient, right? You want to be efficient. You want to make the most of your time. You want to go so quickly. You have this vision that is here on the end game or the big picture. And then getting there seems to be almost a rush. And so the opportunity here is to really slow down. Again, this is why it's my mantra for manifesting generators, because what tends to happen with Manny Gens is you're going so fast that you're overlooking some things along the way that then require you to go back and fix or revisit. So for example, if you are responding to something, you are following your authority, and then you are not informing, for example, now you're taking action and you're off to the races, right? You're going on your trip to California and you forgot to tell people, inform people that matter, right? So now you have to go back and it's interrupting your trip. And that can become very frustrating and angering. And like a manifestor, the anger and the frustration can come at you as well as from within you. Okay. So it's really important that we're following your strategy and minding the authority as well for decision making. So I see this often in manifesting generators who want to they want to create clients in their business. They decide that they want to be on Instagram, and then they start making a bunch of posts, but there's not necessarily, this is just an example, not for everyone, but there's no cohesion in it or no offer, right? They're skipping those little steps of the planning it out. And then it's like frustration and anger about not having enough followers or not getting enough engagement, right? So then we have to go back and rework the strategy before it becomes effective. So these are the kinds of things I'm talking about when I'm saying you're just moving so fast. Slow down, right? And really having someone around you that can slow you down, or not to slow you down. Let me rephrase that. Someone around you that can either help you identify some of the things that need to happen along the way. And this is where informing can be really helpful, because it's not about asking for permission, right? It's about seeing if there's anything else to respond to along the way. All right. The other thing is, with the sacral response, it's a yes, no, right? That response, it's a visceral response in you. The thing with manifesting generators is manifesting generators can have a tendency to not necessarily to take the time to notice their sacral response to something. They may get excited and respond, you may get excited and respond to something. So perhaps somebody says, hey, do you want to hang out tonight? Do you want to come to this party tonight? And you're like, yeah, or for example, there's a party. Let me rephrase this because I'm getting into my projectorness and I'm moving so fast being in my Manny Gen energy. So say that there's a party, right? And the manifesting generator is so excited and they're asking their partner or their best friend, hey, do you want to go to this party? And the person is like, yeah, let's go to the party. It's important that they also ask you, because yes, there's a response, but it's not always taking the time to make sure that's what you actually want as the manifesting generator. So it can be really helpful for the people around you to also just check in with you to say, yeah, but do you want to go to this party? Right. And then give you a chance to have that sacral response. Okay. And be mindful of that. So again, I really encourage you to listen to the generator class and to the manifestor class to get more insights. I think the gist of being a manifesting generator is variety is the spice of life. Okay. You move very quickly and you have this insane capacity to multitask and to have a lot of different things going on. And that's perfect for you. I meet a lot of multi-passionate entrepreneurs who are manifesting generators. And it feels challenging because there is this rhetoric that you have to niche down, or that you can't be all over the place. And it really is about finding a way to allow that variety to be in your business or in your work if you're not a business owner. Really allow that to be there, because it is correct for you. Okay. It just is. And not everyone is going to understand that. So certainly if we're living in a generator dominated world, a generator is going to be a little bit more of the slow and steady wins the race kind, whereas as a manifesting generator is gonna, it's like, what race? I've got 10 things different things going on. And there's a lot of energy here. And it's like, oh yeah, the race is just one of those things, right? So you're moving forward so quickly. So it's really important to be mindful of these things. So productive though, so productive. My Manny Gens, everyone that I know that's a manifesting generator has an insane ability to be just really productive in short amounts of time. The thing with having that sacral center defined is that, yes, you have this ability to have endless energy. So just like a generator, I want you to be mindful of when is enough enough. Okay. And are people taking advantage of that? Just because you have the capacity to do something doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Okay. It has to be a sacral yes. So just like generators, manifesting generators can be really prone to burnout, because you, as that generator type at your core, you really need to be working on things that light you up rather than things that feel like you should be doing or you have to be doing. So there is, something to be said for having great boundaries with the people that you care about in your life and within your relationships, whether that be work or personal life, because that's going to really serve you as well. So anything else I want to say about manifesting generators, relationships? Manifesting generators are very self-sufficient, right? Again, you have this energy to not just initiate, but to also execute. And so in relationships, it can be a level of independence that can make other types uncomfortable. So it's something to be mindful of. And that's where your strategy of, you're in response to something, and then you're informing and keeping your partner in the loop. And also letting it be okay if your partner can't or doesn't care to keep up with you. It's okay for you to have your individualness within a romantic relationship or a partnered relationship, whatever that looks like for you, to have that individualness, as long as there is an agreement there, of course, within the relationship, because there is this element of really loving to be alone as well. So that alone time can be really nourishing for you as a manifesting generator. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as well. In work relationships, what I tend to see happen more often for many gens is not wanting to let go of doing all the things. So delegation can be your very best friend. Just because you can and you have the capacity to do all the things doesn't mean you're meant to do all of the things, right? I see oftentimes it feels more tedious to have to try to explain to someone. It's worth taking the time to delegate something out. It really is, because you want to have time to be in that creative flow. Okay. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, if you want more, I really encourage you to listen to the class on generators at a minimum. And then if you have the interest and the time to listen to the class on manifestors as well, that'll be very helpful for you. I love you, Manny Gens. You guys are amazing. If you want more, if you want to understand more about your chart, maybe in a little bit of a different way than what's normally taught, and certainly going beyond what we're talking about here today in terms of type and strategy, I really encourage you to check out my webinar that I'm running next week. It is Wednesday, the 21st at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called Human Design Demystified. We're going to be breaking things down and just going a little bit deeper. So this is a really great primer to have. So the link is in the description. Be sure to get registered for that. There will be a replay. So if your schedule doesn't allow for you to be live, you'll definitely get a replay if you are registered for the event, but you have to be registered. So If you have questions, definitely put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about being a manifesting generator, being in a relationship with a manifesting generator, and how that applies to your work and life. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Have a wonderful day. We'll be back here tomorrow talking to my fellow projectors about the amazing projectorness. So don't miss that. And if you need anything else, I'm here for you. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Bye for now.